The creative and production nightmares of the past two sequels had left Halloween without a solid direction. Miramax moved away from the unresolved plot and started fresh, taking the shape back to his voyeuristic roots of stalking teenage girls, seeking out a distant relative in a remote all-girls boarding school. As a sign of how bad things had gotten, Halloween 7 was going to be the first in the series not to be released in theaters. Thankfully, Jamie Lee Curtis reached out to Miramax about taking part in a 20th anniversary sequel. Her involvement helped the film fetch a bigger budget, mainstream credibility, and save the series from straight-to-video territory. Curtis wasn't pleased with the direction the series had taken in her absence and wanted to right the ship. Halloweens 4 through 6 were retconned from the series, and Halloween H2O was treated as a sequel to Halloween 2. Laurie was plugged into the original Halloween 7 concept as the school's headmistress with a son, instead of a daughter, hidden away from her past. Michael would track her down, with the two ultimately facing off. Laurie kills Michael for good and takes back her life in the process. Halloween H2O vindicated the franchise and introduced Michael Myers to a new generation of fans. Though once overshadowed by Jason and Freddy, Michael was now a transcendent pop culture icon all his own. Reviews were mixed, with many longtime fans not happy with the teen movie approach or discarding Jamie's story. Whatever fans thought, Halloween H2O was a financial success and renewed the franchise's legacy. What should have served as a fitting finale gave Mustafa Akkad motivation to resurrect Michael once again. Though H2O's success opened doors for another sequel, Miramax didn't share Akkad's desire for another Myers movie. At an impasse, they turned to the fans, who voted pro-Myers, and Halloween Resurrection was announced as the next installment in the Michael Myers saga. Production began as the internet was exploding, and fans came together to speculate on how Michael would be resurrected. In reality, producers had devised an explanation while shooting H2O in case they needed Michael for a future installment. Michael had switched places with a responding paramedic, and Laurie had killed an innocent man. Stricken with grief, she's institutionalized and waits for her brother to return. Again. Laurie reclaiming her life after 2 decades of fear and misery is undone in the first 5 minutes of Halloween Resurrection. Michael kills Laurie quickly, and the remaining 60 minutes play out like a generic straight-to-video entry, with Michael returning to his childhood home to find a reality show contest being filmed inside. Halloween Resurrection was released to a strong opening weekend, but negative reviews and fan displeasure killed the sequel's early momentum. Most fans saw Resurrection as an uninspired cash-in on H2O's success. An immediate sequel with Laurie's son John hunting down Michael Myers was derailed by Resurrection's negative reception. After Mustafa Akkad's death in 2005, all parties gave up on Halloween 9, and Rob Zombie's reboot was announced for 2007. He set out to please as many fans and respect the original as much as possible, while bringing new ideas to the story. He engaged with fans on message boards and social media, going as far as to hold fireside chats to update fans and get feedback. Zombie's reboot followed the original with a few notable exceptions. The first third of the film is a prequel of sorts, delving into what caused Michael's evil. He's a sociopath born into a volatile white trash family. Also different is Loomis, now an opportunistic weasel, as opposed to a man tragically dedicated to stopping the inevitable. The brutally violent reboot grossed $60 million in the US and over $80 million overall, the highest grossing of the series, though reviews were mixed to negative. Rob Zombie's successful Halloween meant, of course, Halloween 2 would be right around the corner. Rob Zombie had no initial plans to return, and various names were attached to write and direct a follow-up that was to stay true to the original series. After none of these options worked out, Malik Akkad, who had taken over as steward of the Halloween series after his father's passing, approached Zombie and gave him the freedom to take the series away from the roots of the past. Zombie agreed, declaring he no longer held a sense of loyalty to the original. He also publicly expressed resentment toward negative Halloween fans over the backlash his reboot received after going out of his way to appease them. In Zombie's Halloween 2, Laurie falls into madness and shuns her family and friends, while Michael sees visions of his mother and a pale horse telling him to bring the family together. Michael is gunned down by a grieving Sheriff Brackett before Laurie snaps, taking Michael's knife and stabbing him repeatedly to death. Laurie then dons Michael's mask, approaches the police, and is taken into custody. Halloween 2 has its fans, but is widely considered one of the worst of the sequels. After the backlash surrounding Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, it was decided to move away from the zombie universe. Halloween Returns was slated for 2016, But mid-development, Dimension Films lost the rights to the film, and the concept was abandoned. In 2016, Blumhouse, Miramax, and Trancas International came together to undertake a new Halloween film, slated for 2018. The film will disregard all prior sequels and reboots, acting as a direct sequel to the 1978 original. John Carpenter returned to executive produce, with Jamie Lee Curtis and The Shape himself, Nick Castle, taking part. 40 years after surviving Michael Myers, Laurie has prepared for his inevitable escape from a maximum security prison. This installment will further complicate the story, but may redefine how we recognize franchise films. Instead of rigid linear stories, it could lead to more experimental standalone entries in Halloween and other beloved franchises. Fans can either accept or ignore the installments as they wish. Perhaps the biggest reason continued sequels fail is the original story with Michael Myers as a human representation of evil was better suited for a single film. Any attempts to extend the saga or explain the aura of The Shape only serve to diminish his mystique and make a mess of the story. So many different continuities exist in the franchise that has become like a choose-your-own-adventure book. You can recognize the original on its own. There's the Laurie trilogy, the Jamie saga, the zombie films, the reboot sequel, and don't forget Halloween 3 all by its lonesome. The Halloween legacy is a repetitive cycle of success and self-sabotage. Creative differences, legal battles, studio interference, and greed prevented the original modern-day slasher from ruling the 80s and led to an incoherent story, a fractured franchise that is challenging yet fun to follow. Until next time, I'm Brian J.